Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Um, Hello, everyone. This is the FOSS user group in Natick talking about free open source software, Linux, and more. And I'm Dick Miller. Uh, my wife, Jill Miller, is next door and will pitch in when it counts. And uh, we are here to talk about many topics we know about and perhaps a few that you will bring up during our approximately 2 hour session today. Um, let's get going. I have a list I'd like to share, and it includes um, an introductory slide talk. Uh, I think I'll skip the introductory slide talk and just do a fast one here. And that is that free open source software is the alternative to what you buy at the store or what you buy online. It's free, but it's also open source. Almost everything you buy at the store is proprietary and carefully not open source. You don't get to see the internal code. You don't get to improve it, and you don't get to complain about it when it's doing something wrong. You may say, I couldn't care less, I'm not a programmer anyway, but you have thousands of programmers at your back when you're using free open source software. They're doing that clarification and improvement for you, and you get the benefit of it. So these are several reasons you might like free open source software. It's free in that other sense to the programmers. They can pick it up and use it to improve it or to take it sideways into a new program where they incorporate the parts of that program that they think are the best. So we constantly get new offerings, some of which are very amateur and some of which are very professional. And at meetings like the one we're holding now, we get to compare notes and see which ones we'd like to use, which ones we'd like to recommend, how to use them better. That's about it for today on my introductory talk. I'll be coming back to it on several of the items, including the very first one. In the FOSS news today, uh, there's an error going on iPhones, and it's causing a lot of people to lose all their photos forever. They're very unhappy about that. Meanwhile, Apple says it's not an error. It's not their fault. So people are having a debate over it while too many people are losing their old photos. If you save your photos on your own computer or on a backup drive, you don't have this problem. Even if they disappear, you can put them back again. But a lot of people are using the storage that iPhone offers inexpensively online. When it fills up, you don't get warned, or at least it's not a warning that most people are recognizing, apparently. And it just keeps on and locks up. And the solution to fix the lockup involves losing the thousands of photographs. So you can go get more storage, but meanwhile, you've lost your past storage.
Not just photos, but also your contacts
If
and
you've been composing the world's greatest opera, or writing the ultimate web page or book, that just went also. So this is a disaster for some people. Apple is not calling it a programming problem on their part, and people are stuck in the middle. We have here information on what you can do about it. If you don't read it in time, I'm not sure you can do anything about it. And Apple says it's not their problem. So that's one. You will be able to click on the link tonight or by tomorrow as soon as I put the final links and full discussion up online tonight. So I'll leave the discussion on what to do for iPhone users that would like to not lose everything and aren't backing up their own stuff. Um, enough for now, but the point is, FOSS tends to do it differently. Bootable USB drive on Linux can rescue Windows users. Well, when Windows users lock up, there's a lot they can't do also, and they have programs for getting through that can do some of the fixes. This is a very interesting article on a special Linux bootable USB that's designed to repair Windows problems. Very nice to know. You might want to make one and carry it around with you, even if you're not on Windows, if you're that sort of person. So these are both referencing the fact that the two main brands out there, Windows and Apple, aren't always doing it right. Linux isn't always doing it right either, but you have your way into the mainstream on the version of Linux you're using. You can switch to a different version. They're not there for marketing purposes and proprietary purposes. And a lot of programmers keep making them better all the time without having to be the ones that work for the company that wants those programmers to make it work better for the company than for the user. It's a different start to the whole trip. So I'll include those little FOSS news items in my introductory talk. We're going to have a lot more FOSS news down under computer security. And the reason we're going to do that is because this month and this week and this day are featuring a lot of news about computer security. Um, by the way, I'm using a small cursor. Let me put on a big one so people that can't see it will. Um, Take me a moment. I will use Unity Tweak Tool. I'm using Ubuntu Unix. And in Linux, you can use any front end you want with many choices. I'm using the Unity front end. I like it a lot. And I'll keep the same cursor, but make it large. There it is. All I had to do. And now you'll be able to track me more easily on the screen. Uh,
Volume.
okay, thank you. Excuse me. Maybe I'll talk louder. We'll see. Um, so, so much for those two items. Um, I will mention that we are expecting an attack today from QAnon types um, on the U.S. Capitol building. And the Capitol is worrying about it a lot more this time. That's good news and bad news. But it's today's news. And I'll hop right down there and I'll say, FBI renews attack on encryption. What's going on? Let's look. I thought I'd be looking at it. That's not in Firefox. Sorry, folks. Let's bring up a Firefox. It says I have one. Why aren't I seeing it in that?
Next time you're on the Infinite Regress browser, you might want to switch that one to a different tab.
Just a minute now. Well, meanwhile, let's try this, see if I stay good after this. So here's the FBI renewing an attack. They say with all this encrypted technology, the perpetrators of the attack can use that encrypted technology. If we don't come up collectively with some sort of solution, it's not going to matter how bulletproof the legal process is or how horrific the crime is or how heartbreaking the victims are, heartbroken, I suppose. We will not be able to get access to the content and evidence that we need to protect the American people. This is the FBI talking. Okay, and today we're expecting trouble, a reason to need that. But it's a years-long struggle between tech companies and free open source groups and the government over whether law enforcement should have special access to secure data. And top cybersecurity experts argue there is no way to provide special access. It also creates vulnerabilities that can be exploited. So there's no such thing as special access, or maybe there is for about 1 day until it gets broken. Um, and so here we are. We're stuck. And today's the day we're looking at it in particular, but we're stuck arguing between the goodness of the FBI being able to spy on us and the goodness of people not being able to spy on us. Puzzle. I'm not going to give you a solution today, but let's see what happens by tomorrow. And I think before we go further on that topic, I would normally say any discussion at this point, but I'm not going to say it because we have a ton of other pieces that are going to add to the same discussion. And the first one, Bob Premack is going to introduce one new piece of trouble that we hope is fixed very shortly. And meanwhile, he has some suggestions. Bob, are you ready to go on favicon?
If people can hear me, then I am ready.
You are sounding very quiet to me. Am I the only one?
Okay, can you hear me now? Is that any better?
No.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, then it's good.
I can certainly turn up my volume. So let's proceed.
Okay, so let me
Stop
kick
sharing
into it.
your screen.
Yeah, I need to kick into a screen share. So what I am going to share first of all
Can
is,
other people hear, Bob?
can you hear me? I will
Yep.
say share. Okay, people can hear me.
I heard you loud and
Yeah, everybody else seems to be able to. I don't know what's going on over there.
I am hearing you, Bob, but I put up my volume to do so, and the other people are coming through louder than you are. Not a problem, though.
Okay, that may just be one setup that's doing that. But what I'm going to do is first of all, I think I'm going to do a Chrome tab, and I'm going to do this because there was an email from Albert Runman. Can everybody see where my cursor is and all the email?
yes.
Okay. He sent an email that alerted me to this little issue that was going on. And what I am going to try to do now is, whoops, that didn't quite do what I want. I'm going to stop with this, and I'm going to start with a new tab, share. And my first Chrome tab is, oh, that didn't, here it is, the article. Okay, everybody can see now, new browser tracking hack works even when you flush caches or go incognito. And the idea is that there's this thing called a favicon. I don't know whether you won't be able to see it in my browser, even if I show you the window. But anyway, on the left-hand side of the URL, you will sometimes see a little icon. And if you go to any of your bookmarks or favorites, you will see these little icons. Can people see my drop-down list that is overlaying now?
I am not.
You're not seeing any lists of my bookmarks?
No, I don't think pull-down menus
Can't see
get
above
visible.
163.
Okay. Since it cannot be seen, I don't want to share the whole screen, do I? Well, anyway, there are these to the left. If you look at any of the bookmarks, and sometimes a site will show this, there'll be a little icon to the left of a title or a URL in your location bar. But anyway, these are called favicons, and for a long time, they were considered a simple decorative resource supported by browsers to facilitate websites' branding. But the research indicated that they introduce a possible powerful tracking vector that poses significant privacy threat to users. It can easily be implemented on any website without the need for user interaction or consent, and works even when anti-tracking extensions are deployed and even when you're incognito. So it works in Chrome, Safari, Edge. It was working in the Chromium-based Brave browser, which is supposed to be very security conscious. Firefox should also be able to be exploited in the same way, but there is something that the researchers are calling a bug that prevents the attack from working at the moment. So there's a small icon that can be unique for each domain or subdomain. And they're saved in a cache. And that cache is an SQLite database. So one of the techniques that they use to identify you when they're tracking you is fingerprinting. And it collects the screen size, the list of all available fonts, software versions, and other properties of the visitor's computer to create a profile that is unique to that machine. Linux users are particularly trackable because not many people even use Linux to come in. But anyway, it turned out that websites can exploit favicons as a side channel. What they do is they redirect visitors through a series of subdomains, each with its own favicon, before delivering them to the page they requested. The number of redirections varies depending upon the number of unique visitors the site has. To be able to track 4.5 billion unique browsers, a website would need 32 redirections, since each redirect translates into 1 bit of entropy. Now, I don't know what entropy is, but I'm sure some of the people in this group do. That means you're adding about 2 seconds for the time for the page to finally load. With certain tweaks, it would be almost unnoticeable. And so the problem with favicons is when you clear your cache, when you clear your history, the favicon database is not cleaned. And so what it comes down to is that you've got this persistent cache, which can be used for tracking. So now that we know all of that, what are we going to do about it? I'm going to start in with a new share of another tab, and we'll see what we can learn about this. Okay, the first thing you need to know is where the favicon database is. And for Firefox users, where does Firefox store your bookmarks, your passwords, and other user data, including the favicons database? So this article talks about where you find your profile, and there are lots of articles online where you can find this out. In Ubuntu, you're going to be in your home folder, and you're going to be in a folder that's called .mozilla. And then you'll find a folder called Firefox, and it has various profiles. And what you've got are bookmarks. There's Places, which is an SQLite database. There's bookmark backups, and there's favicons.sqlite. And what I'm going to show is what you would see for the Chromium browsers, because I've been using Chrome all this time. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing this, and I am going to see if I can share an application window, and I'm going to try to share. Okay, you should be seeing my home directory now. And for Chromium-based browsers, let's get rid of this overlay. For Chromium-based browsers, I'm going into .config, and I'm going to find Google Chrome. In my case, I'm using Google Chrome Beta. I will not be able to edit this database while Chrome is running. But inside of here, we have, there should be a profile. Now, in my case, it's not called default because I have a profile 1 and a profile 2. It turns out I'm using profile 2 these days. And that's where you find something called favicons. That is an SQLite database, and I have a browser for that. Okay, the database is locked, so I'm going into the other profile for that. Let's try profile 1, see if it has that. Profile 1, favicons. Here it is. Now, I don't know if there's anything in this one. There may or may not be. Okay, I'm going to have to share the application window. And with a little luck, we'll be able to see something in here. If I am correct, yeah. Now, right now, we've got some numbers here, but if I go to favicons in the database, these are the URLs from which the favicons have been downloaded. And you'll see that these are very persistent. These are like every place I've been over the past couple or 3 months in that particular profile of Google Chrome Beta. And so supposedly you can edit this database if you have a program that's powerful enough to do so. But when you're talking about 200, 400, 800, over 1,000 of these things, I don't think I would want to try to edit. I would just get rid of it. Just delete. And so if you delete it, it's going to just rebuild, right? Well, here's what is suggested in one of the online forums. First, you go to, okay, what you're going to try to do is prevent favicons from even being downloaded and cached locally. And so the first thing you do is delete that favicons database. And then staying offline, you go through this series of commands. And what it's basically going to do is turn your favicons database to read-only. And if you turn it into read-only, that seems to do the trick. You can also do that with Firefox, but you don't really need to. And what I am going to do is I'm going to show what they say you're able to do in Firefox to disable favicons. It's a lot simpler. There are in Firefox, you have an about config function. So you then go to browser.chrome. And that's not anything to do with Chromium or the Chrome browser. It's just the Firefox browser Chrome. And it's got some settings. And there are 2 settings, browser.chrome.favicons and browser.chrome site favicons. And double click them and turn them to false. By default, they're true. And from then on, you should no longer be collecting favicons. You'll still have to get rid of the original database, but it should not repopulate, and you won't have this problem with the exploit if Firefox were ever fixed so that this ever were a problem again. So the other thing I want to be able to share is there is a little note I want to make of Safari, because this is the exemplary behavior that there should be in every browser with regard to this. How to disable favicons in Safari on a Mac. And it basically says that you can disable the favicons and Safari is treated as an app. And all you do is you go to the preferences and there's a tabs section, and you just uncheck show website icons and tabs.
Are you hearing him? Mine blanked out again.
Am I still audible?
You are.
Okay. So anyway, supposedly that would, in Safari, that would completely disable the favicons.
Oh,
So they apparently have a setting.
no, that's not it.
Okay, so I am done doing any sharing that I would want to do. And is there any discussion that people want to engage in?
My first comment is thank you, Bob. My second comment is a lot of us will be using Chromium. Do you know about any particular issues with Chromium or fixes?
As I said, yes, Chromium is vulnerable to these exploits. And the way to deal with it is you go inside your profile in your home directory and first delete the favicons database. Then, using commands in the command line, you can set that database to read only.
Is it rather similar to Firefox, which you described in detail?
No, Firefox has the about config, which is the configuration which you can access from within the browser. And it would be like trying to set a Chrome flag, except Chrome doesn't have any flags for this.
And I'm talking Chromium.
Yeah, Chromium is the as when I said Chromium behaves pretty much the same way.
That's what I wanted to know.
It
Thanks.
keeps its configuration file the same place. It will be either default or some other name, profile 1 or profile 2. And favicons is an SQL database, just the same as it is in Chrome.
Okay. Thanks.
That much of it is a core function.
Other questions? Okay. Bob, have you removed your screen sharing?
Did I yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Now I'll put mine back in, and I'll try this time by saying application window instead of entire screen. Who knows? We may live well. And okay, so pretty much still on news, I suppose. New malware found on 30,000 Macs has security pros stumped. I don't have the solution either, but it's new. And Apple MacBook M1 malware is dangerous. Well, the M1 is a chip, and MacBooks with the M1 chip are what they're talking about here. They're beginning to introduce them. Apple had the idea that if it made its own custom chips, instead of a CPU and storage, it could put a lot of the things it wanted to control in firmware, and by putting them in firmware, have it faster and perhaps more secure as well. So that's what it was all about. And here's this malware that showed up about immediately, and it's dangerous malware. I'm not picking on Apple at the moment. I'm saying there's a lot of trouble out there this week. Here, we're talking about last week and then some. Russian hackers targeted the U.S. power grid, electric utilities, oil and gas, and other industrial firms since 2017, and it just got discovered. Here's one that's been wide open, in the works, trouble, and it's been floating for 4 or 5 years until they found it. China hijacked a U.S. National Security Agency hacking tool in 2014, and that's been shared around with a few other groups. Here's NSA's hacking tool getting used against the government. And if you recall, the FBI is just saying, you've got to give us a new opening or two so we can do our hacking to keep you safe. Something wrong here, guys. Um, and finally, would you believe that it's a big market for these kinds of tools? And you might want to read all about this one. Uh, I guess it goes under history also, but I thought a lot of things that might have been in news might have been in history. We better put all together. They're all about security, privacy, and yes, freedom. And our FBI is saying, give up our freedom. We need security, um, maybe. So all one lump. I think we finished with the introductory slide talk in today's news. Um, History, we had one other item later. Oh, I'm sorry. On the overview of all of this, is there any discussion? Everybody happy? Okay, or unhappy? Okay. Um, uh, in the FOSS history, I found one very interesting article, 5 reasons to use Linux package managers. Let's see if we can get into this one with ease. Where am I? Good. I think we're beginning to have this work. Um, I think the big secret was just not using full screen on that setting in Chromium. Um, okay. Um, what is a package manager? A lot of us know, some of us won't. Um, Normally, a hotshot programmer would say, I want the following problem, and gets it. And then reads a list of the program's dependencies. It needs some other more standard programs that are out there for it to run well or at all. So you go and you load the dependency programs. And maybe you have to tune something a little bit, and then you're all set to go, and it's very fine. A package manager takes that package and your package and the list of all the things that are in the repository, that is the website you're picking packages from and picking programs from. And it says, here's what I've got, here's what they want, here's what they already have from what they're going to want, and here's the ones they don't have they're going to need. I'll just quietly in the background put in the ones that are needed in the best way possible, because that's what I do. I'm a package manager. That's what a package manager is. It's a very nice tool, especially if you're not a hotshot programmer. And which one to use, when to use it, are they all the same with different programming inside, or are they doing actually different things as well? Very nice article on that. I would recommend for almost everyone that they do use a good package.
That's not showing up on my lot.
Oh, I'm not on your screen?
No.
I think I am. Hang on a minute. I'm going to try something that may or may not work. I hit the D key in Chromium, which is supposed to share. And back again.
Yeah, I'm seeing the agenda.
Are most people seeing the article?
Still seeing the agenda here.
Oh, not as good as I thought.
Yeah, I just got the agenda too.
Oh, not what I planned on. I thought I should have moved to a different one. Let me backtrack and try it a different way then. Be there in a moment. Now I think I'm on the screen that you say you are on. And let's see if from here I can do it differently. What I'd like to know is, am I...
No. Good news is we see fat cursor moving around.
Good. It's live. Hasn't locked up. We don't have to get a bootable USB drive to fix it. But but I think I'm in Chromium and not in Firefox here. That's what I'm guessing.
I think you needed to
To what?
share your full screen.
Wasn't that what caused all the nested
Yes,
issues?
but then if you go away from the Chromium
Let me
screen,
try this. I'm going to go to it from here again. Where were we? Package managers.
well,
I think this
stop
screen.
sharing.
Should I stop sharing?
Yeah.
Okay. Stop sharing.
No, I see this.
Move to Linux package managers. And it's not coming up. It's coming up in the other window, I think.
Right?
And then what?
You need to go to Chromium.
I need to open it first and then open screen sharing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're currently sharing you and the same
The
art print that's behind Jill.
Right, the camera, as opposed
Yeah.
to the screen.
And delightfully on my Brady Bunch, the two of you are next to each other in appropriate position. So when you look at each other, you're actually looking at each other. I like that.
If you like it enough and you don't get it, you can just drag one of those windows next to the other one. They're draggable.
I will do that in the future, but right now I've got two views of the same beach scene with two different people in front of them, which
Coincidence, you say? Oh, I think not.
I think that's Winger Chic Breach.
Okay. I'm still puzzling over how to get there from here.
Now you go to
Now I go
Chromium.
back to Chromium.
Yes.
This is messier. I'm supposed to be able to tap the D key and go between camera and display. And I think it should be that simple. But if it's not, I'll call it screen one for now. I think it is. So entire or application window? Which one, Jill?
Well, you were on an application window, so I think you want entire.
Entire. Any luck?
And now you want to go over to the other screen. Yes. There you go.
bingo.
And that was simple. I need a way to do that with the D key, not with all this stuff. Maybe next time. If someone knows how and would like to give me a quick run through on it later or tomorrow, I would appreciate that. Send me an email, make me an offer. I will grab. In addition to that, this will give you a good rundown on how you can keep things nice and then how to compare the different tools on the job to see which one you like. I find my Ubuntu Software Center delivers me very good support for all the things that it includes. When it does not, I go across and use the Synaptic package manager, and I really don't use the third one. Those two keep me very happy. Because I'm in Ubuntu, I use its own when they do have me covered. And the Synaptic one has a much larger list and takes good care of me there.
A bunch of applications are on Snap, which is different.
Right. We mentioned Snaps last month and gave you some references to look at. That's Ubuntu's new solution to the problem. And it's analogous, and we shall see. They're making it available to all, but whether all will grab it and run with it or not is quite debatable. So in a year, we'll know more about that.
I find it annoying because it loads up things in the home directory or folder, and we have most of our user data in a separate partition. So we have a minimal home folder size partition, and it fills it up. very annoying.
So let me see. Now, can I get back from here to the other one?
Why don't you try the D?
No, because that's in Thunderbird. But I can get back to it one way or another. There we go. And okay, so much for that. You again will have the link for closer study. Dennis Payne has been packaging our 2-hour shows for many, many, many months. And he does that using a different kind of a package manager, I guess. And Dennis is going to talk to us today about what used to be called Open Broadcaster Software, OBS, and nowadays is called OBS Studio. So Dennis, I'm going to stop sharing so you can get on, okay?
Okay.
I'm clear.
Alrighty. So I do not use this for doing the streaming of this meeting.
Ah,
This meeting is simpler in that Jitsi has it built in. I can just go over and say, stream this to YouTube, and it does it. So OBS is not available on Fedora by default, which is the distribution I use. But it is available on the RPM Fusion, I think it's called, which is a repository of additional packages that Fedora won't package for some reason. Like they may require some sort of proprietary content or something like that, or the license isn't open enough.
RPM Fusion.
So OBS is available there, but for whatever reason, it's a little broken at the moment when you start it up under Wayland. So I looked around and found someone gave me this command that'll actually get it up and running properly under Wayland. So this would be what you'd get when you start up OBS. So what we ended up using this for was for the Cub Scout Pinewood Derby. Since we were doing it virtually this year, we wanted to have a bunch of different cameras set up. And so this allowed us to be able to switch between those different cameras. So I can go over, and I have seen one here, and I can go over and add a video capture device. And I can pick, this is the built-in camera of my laptop. Now, if you do end up using this, you want to switch it to emulated. That gives you better resolution. I'm not sure what the emulated is exactly, but I just know from experience that if you don't use the emulated, then the video quality will be really bad. So this is, scene one is the camera that's facing me on my laptop. So I can go over and add in a new scene. And I have hooked up a second camera. And so I can go over and set that one up too. So now what'll happen is whichever one I'm on here is what's actually being recorded or streaming. You can do both with this software. And so if suddenly I want to switch to a different camera, I just click on it it's set up to fade by default. There's a bunch of other options. I was extremely lazy when I was doing the Pinewood Derby, or rather, I only wanted to have so many new things to try. So I left everything at the default for fades and stuff. So you could switch back and forth. So we ended up having 3 cameras set up. One at the start of the track, one that was looking down the track and also had our MC, and we had one at the finish line. And so when the race was running, I was constantly switching between these 3 scenes. And you can go over and rename them, or you can rename them so that it's easier to remember. So that you don't have to remember which one is what. We also went over and wanted to be able to have some downtime where we were doing things behind the scenes. So, for example, when we started the event, we wanted to be able to have things going on before we were ready to go live. And so what we ended up doing was we added in an image slideshow. And so you can go over and put in images. Now, it has this feature to add a directory. That's what I used during our event. Don't use that. It's broken. When I was using it, it looked like it was working, but it was only displaying a subset of the files. It was a consistent subset. So if I deleted the directory and added it back in, it would be the same set of files. I have no idea why it displayed those files and why it didn't display the others. But it was one of those things of, I wish I had just added the files individually. So if you add them individually, it does have this annoying feature that it only displays certain files. So it only displays what it considers image files. Things that are named slightly off. For example, if they have, instead of .jpg with a lowercase, if they were all uppercase, they do not display on this list. So you need to go over and manually put those ones in. So you can go over and add a set of images in. And then we'll say, okay. Actually, I did not set it to make it. Let's see. Is that what we want? No, that's not what we want. There's a setting to make it so that it resizes everything. Oh, I bet it's that. There we go.
So Dennis,
Yep.
You picked .jpgs, and a lot of your pictures were .jpeg. Can it work with the JPEGs?
Yes, it works with them too. It doesn't. The ones I know it doesn't detect is the JPG when it's uppercase, and I think it doesn't display anything with PNG as well.
Okay. I
mean, it's not a big deal to rename them. It's just more one of those things of, you just have to know before you get into it that that's something you have to do.
Is it possible that that is an adjustable setting?
I haven't looked into that, so it's possible that it is. But see, now you can go over and say, all right, the race is ready. Switch to camera 1. Switch to camera 2. The race is over, and we're collecting results. And you can go back to displaying the slideshow for people while they're waiting. It has all sorts of other features that you can display as well. I haven't played around with any of the other ones. I also didn't do very much with the audio. So in my case, I was only using one microphone. And so I never worried about what you'd have to do if you needed to switch audio at the same time or not.
A soundboard.
So that's pretty much it.
Can we see what came out? Is that the running version now?
Well, the recording of the Pinewood Derby.
Yeah, just a little feel for what it can do. Is that an easy request or not?
Relatively easy, I think.
Good. Let's take a ride.
Or actually, you know what I can do?
While you're setting up, I will mention that I found this readily available, I think, in the Ubuntu Software Center, and comments from users were that it was surprisingly professional in its capabilities. A lot of add-ons available beyond the big list that is already in it.
Nice. Do we know if this includes abilities to have a lower third or chyron easily?
I don't.
So to have only the video on part of the screen sort of thing?
And have, changing text down at the bottom that gives the name of the person that's currently featured or their website.
I'm pretty sure you can do things like that. I didn't play around with it that much. I know that you can set it up so that the video is not full screen, so you can crop it to be a smaller part of the screen and then have images laid over it and that sort of thing.
Would this be a solution to being able to have a headshot of the speaker small and the slides the speaker is presenting large?
Like the something annual, like how many years? The 21st, or let's say the annual then.
I would go with the annual.
Just
The Derby drone.
yeah.
Put the talk up, man.
All right.
You gotta put the hype in there. Make it feel like something important's
I
happening.
will. I'm gonna try to talk it up.
Question is how many cars will lose money? I have turned on the screen. How many dreams will be lost?
The speaker?
How many children
Should I
will be
hold it, or
embarrassed?
do you think can it pick me up from here just fine?
Why don't I?
There's some tight races so far. I see all these cars.
That's called a tennis ball microphone.
It's a microphone that YouTubers use.
When they play tennis?
My mistake. It's not a tennis ball. It's a dentist ball.
Oh, that hurt.
This is when we only had 2 cameras set up for the race part. So actually,
We take out the 2 slowest.
so we had the 1 camera at the end. This one is the MC camera and the one down the length of the track. And then we had the one at the starting line.
Oh, the track's a lot longer than I had imagined from the first pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. The track looks like the main project. Do you buy those or build those? Or
The pack had them when I joined, so I know they buy them, but I don't know that much about it. Our Cub Master wants to get the loop-de-loop that they have,
Whoa.
which I suspect will just mean that you'll have a whole bunch of broken cars at the end. But so yeah, this is the sort of thing you can do with it.
Amazing.
Cool.
Well, first of all, I'm glad to see the products of the tool. Second of all, I'm jealous. My Cub Scout troop didn't have one of these. That was several months ago. Great. Thank you
Several
so much.
centuries.
And all my brownie troop did was learn to
Yeah,
make
let's see.
hospital corners on beds.
Which application or entire, do you remember?
Pardon?
Do we want entire screen or application window?
Entire screen.
And this time I'll try for screen 1 again. No, I'll go to screen 2. And back I come with a little luck. And let's see, for me, how do I get to my, I don't want it as default. I want, here we go.
I think we just lost Dick.
Yeah, but he's muted.
Jill, can you unmute Dick? I'm sure Dick's saying something very interesting right now, but
Should we just start filling in for him as to what he's saying?
and unfortunately Jill is also muted since she muted herself back when
Who's a lip reader here? And Dick exited.
He's
One,
on.
2, 3. Can you hear me? Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got you now finally.
Sorry, you're going to have to bear with it now. Okay, let's see. Start again with the sharing, I guess. Maybe
You
not.
changed your camera angle. I can't see the beach print.
Oh, too bad.
I've only got one of them.
Let me think.
You need to share it.
And now Jerry's sitting on the couch between the two of you.
So
Okay. Okay.
I'll say screen 2, share. And with a little luck, it didn't share.
It's sharing.
I think my screen 2.
Yeah, I'm.
Oh,
There you go.
There you go.
so who stole my Thunderbird? Ha, got it. Beginning to make sense. I don't like this setup. I'll find a better one by next time. Famous last words. So, OBS Studio looks good for serious video work. And
Um,
using,
It looks like it might solve a different set of problems to what the StreamYard freemium service solves.
yes, multiple streams and splicing them together easily and neatly, I would think.
But more, while it can do live, it looks like it's better for post-production
Oh, yes,
and not live streaming a panel discussion.
right.
Yeah, one of the problems I had with it is that, for example, that slideshow screen, I can't go over and edit it and keep it on like a camera. So keep it on the camera view and then edit the slideshow. I don't know how you can do that or if you can do that. So it becomes one of those things of, as if you set everything up, it's great. But if you need to fix anything on the fly, it's not that great.
Learning process. Uh,
Now, that may just be that there's a way of doing it and I just don't know what it is.
right. Um, uh, I would like an appropriate link or two to post with this. Hopefully, I'll do that tonight. And if there's a good how-to for using it, that might be good. But short of that, we've got a great intro. I'm glad.
Wait, you want me to look at the documentation?
Certainly not. Using Photox, I did some interesting things this month with Photox that I thought other people might like to play with also. Again, Photox is certainly my favorite photo, not movie, but photo enlarging environment. It's free open source software. And because I help a little bit to develop it, it tends to be in a flavor I like. If there's a rough edge, it often gets fixed quite quickly and smoothed down to something even nicer than before. So I push it as something for other people to try. And it's not just for photo editing, it's also for photo management. And as I turn it on, assuming you can see it, I hope you will,
And
Just a minute, what, Joe?
and the developer would like to hear from more people.
Like so many FOSS projects, the developers are very open to suggestions, cheers, and making it better. That's what their project was, uh, not selling more copies. So before they make it better, which is how you do it with an annual upgrade and things like that. So um, I like Photox, and the first thing Photox does is manage photos. When I open it, it goes to my default file of photos, and it has a lot of them, and it looks to see if any of them are new or got damaged so that in some way they don't have a thumbnail photo in the Photox tool. It won't be able to find them without it. So as it loads, it scans all of them to see if any of them needed to create a thumbnail photo. And it does all that rather quickly, starting 1, 2, 3 now. And it's loading, and very shortly it'll be here. And somewhere here, oh boy, I've got to go find it. I got to this instead. Why?
I think you just want to click over on the.
I'll just open the darn thing. I think I'm in the window where it will open. Yes, and here it is. It says you've got 56,000 photos, no new thumbnails. Here you are. And this is recent images, not necessarily what I want. I instead will click A to go to my default album. That's my default album. And in it, I will go, for instance, to hither. This is an old photo.
Well,
To be exact, it's 32,000 years old by radiocarbon dating. And this is early man in a cave in south of France, showing they're very advanced artistically 32,000 years ago. And our granddaughter, the artist, thinks this is really good creative art. But we very often want something like that. I made this into wallpaper. I'd like to use it on my computer. Kind of puts things in place. But sometimes you can only find a very small image online of what you want to enlarge. This one was large enough, but I'll go and take a look at the one it was made from and my final result. And what I did with this one, which was 1200 high and 1600 pixels wide, I wanted one 1920 wide, bigger than this, but not as high. And the steps I went through were quite simple in Photox, and I thought they might be useful to others. The first step was to crop it down to what I wanted. I did not want to rotate, otherwise I would have rotated, like so. I would have just hit the down arrow in the lower right of my keyboard, or the right or the up arrow, till I got it the way I wanted. A little hard to tell unless you ask for lines. That would make it a lot easier for some jobs. And I might want to unwarp it if, for instance, I was aimed downward or upward. I'd have a lot of side bend out at the edge, a lot of vertical bend out at the sides. And I might want to correct for that with unwarping both sides of vertical. I have tools for all of that. Warp is here. I went to edit to find rotate, and I can do those things, but I'm not going to do that one at all. Instead, I'll go back in. I'll leave the lines up, no reason not to. And I'll say edit, crop. And in crop, we know, first of all, I usually start with max. I open up what I can have, and then I say 16 by 9. That's my screen ratio. And then I say, well, that's it. They did it. Except I think it's just a little higher than I'd like. I'll drag it down to about thither. That's nice. And I'm surprised to see I didn't go anywhere outside. I would now click on auto. If by any chance I were slightly overlapping the actual image into the background area, auto would narrow or shorten the picture's height to make it fit perfectly. And I could drag corners to get to an extreme. Or side, all kinds of things you can do while auto is on and the ratio lock is on together. For instance, I can drag a side or I can drag a corner and I can go back to where I thought I wanted to be, which was left side tight, top tight, and now I can drag out the right corner and get my maximum if I don't, as long as I stop in time. So here I am going back the other way on that one, going up one smidge,
You went in on this.
and going back very carefully for the last touch. And I'm where I want to be. I'll say OK. I now have it enlarged to the size I want, and which is full screen, but it's not showing full size at the moment. And now what I do is I go to repair and sharpen. And this is a secret for people who don't know it yet. I have changed the unsharp mask settings. You can change all these settings just by going in, and you can type them or you can up and down them with the up and down arrows. On unsharp mask, radius 2, amount 20, threshold 1 turns out to be what I have found the very best for general purposes on sharpening after you enlarge. You've blurred things a certain amount by enlarging. It's a good idea to sharpen them again. So I leave that one set and I say apply. I doubt you'll see it. When I do it, up here you'll see busy briefly and it'll wink off again. And in this case, it's surprisingly quick to go through all
I
those.
don't think you've enlarged the image yet. You've only just cropped it.
Oh, just a minute. I guess you're right. It's not against the left. Did I forget?
Cancel.
I'll cancel this. Back one step. Thank you. I'll say undo. And here we are. And I'll very quickly make sure I did all the steps. I don't have to do them slowly now. So first thing I'll do is go to crop. I can go there. I can go into edit crop, various ways in. And indeed, no, width, I want to change to 1920. And I did something wrong. Back again. Width, 1920. I didn't set the ratios. That was my trouble. First, the ratio, lock it at 16:9. Second, make the width, do this better on the first pass, 1920. Hit tab to set the other one. Wait a minute.
That's because you haven't locked.
Wait, I should have it locked. This is, I'm missing a line here. Wait a minute, what's going on? Edit, crop, and very weird.
Did you want to start with max?
I could. That's the crop that I'm after. I should, oh, I see it move. This is not the usual way I see it. I did something marvelous. 1920, and when I hit tab, the height should adjust to the ratio requirement, like so.
And it went back to
But it went back to
1600.
1920. 1920, and I I tapped in there, mistake, and still
Nope.
isn't doing it.
I think the enlarge must be a separate step, isn't it?
It is. Well,
So
no. When I get done with
Dick, don't you finish the crop and then go into
this is
resize?
not my normal image for crop. I expect the height to be under the width. It's a different window.
Oh.
Very interesting.
Click on OK, and then you go in and do a resize.
I can do that, but okay, let's assume this is where I wanted it. Not the exact one I had, doesn't matter. Now edit, resize, and in here I will do the resize 1920 and hit tab to automatically change the height to 1080. And that is what I want. That's not the right size either. I've got columns over on the left and on the top, and it's adjusted to fit in with those. It's partially sized, but it's the finished image I'm seeing partially sized. So I can say, okay. And now again, I would go in, I won't do it again, but I would do the sharpening and that would be it. I'd be done. Well, no, I better do it because there's one more step I didn't get to. Sharpen, just say apply because it's already preset the way I want. And it said busy for less than a second up there. Went away again. It was in red. I'll say okay. And now save gives me options. And I want it to be a new version. It's already remembered the name it had. And I might want to change that too before I save it. But if not, I just say new version. And it's saved under a new version, version 02, because I already had a saved version. And that's it. I can go in now with edit metadata, and I can give it a rating. I can put in those dates that said it was undated. They are the dates I save when I take the picture, and it was the day I did it, which was a few days ago, and midnight, which gives me a clue it's probably not a real time and date. And I could fill in all the blanks. I won't for now. I'll just show you that if I were doing it, wait a minute.
Cancel.
I went back one, and the back one got me to version 1, and it's filled in with various information in there. And picked from this pick list, except where I typed it in by hand. Lots of tags that I can search on later to find it. So that's my example of how you would take an old picture and fix it up. Now, that's an old picture. I'll get rid of the lines by tapping L. They're gone. And that's an old picture, but I wanted to show you a really old picture. That's a really old picture. I made it from this one. Again, something I could bring in online. I cropped it, enlarged it, sharpened it, saved it, and got this one. And again, it's a version 01. It's Photox talking here. Again, it's at noontime, not at a real time. And that's the day that I did the work. Same trick, except this is a detail illustration going with, oh, come on. I missed it. Here, going with this. I skipped it. This is the largest known galaxy in the universe. It's a photo of it with the new superstellar telescope tools we have now. And I again got a picture of it and cropped it and did all my nice things to it. But this is an old photo because this galaxy is 100 million light years away. That's how old the picture image is, as opposed to the image that was captured. Take that 32,000-year-old photo. So that's the end of my talk on how to do that easy step with Photox, but it makes it powerful for grabbing things you like online and making good wallpaper or for some other purposes out of it. And by the way, you can then thin it down to less vivid and put your titling on it for the start of a talk, etc., etc. All of that, including very fancy text capabilities, are right in Photox. You'll find it's very nice for creating slides for a special purpose. So that's my demo of that. One more, while we're talking about old Astro stuff, let's talk about, where am I? I guess Photox in here. Is that true? Photox in here. Yes, that's true. Um, nope, nope, wrong way. That. This is new astrophysics. We're on Mars, folks, and this is from a week or two ago. Um, and Perseverance, NASA's Perseverance rover landed on Mars on February 18th. And 3 days later, they had created and shared this public image, which is a panorama view that was placed together from 142 photographs. Impressive. How do we look at it? Normally, I just click and drag and I'd be seeing it, or I'd hit right arrows. That's not seeing it. So what I've got to do is set up a special mode to see it, because it happens to be a panorama view. Under File, View 360-degree Pano, a fairly new feature in Photox. Whoa, now we're talking. Back and forth as I like. That way, with direction arrow keys, etc. And that's the answer. It's built in. It's ready to work at anybody's images. You can just open the image using Photox if you have it in your computer. And you'll be in gear where you go to File and File. Come on, boys. Because I'm in it already. To go use any of these tools, I have to get out of it. Out of it, you hit the Escape button. And then to get into it again, File and View 360-degree Panorama would do the trick. Lots of other tools. So this is your main dashboard or launcher for the Ubuntu fans in Photox. And in it, there's a lot of options. Up top, there'll be options. You get a lot of choices. That's all. I will go back to Thunderbird. And so 2 different new tricks in good old Photox. Firefox just jumped forward again in the past month. We were talking about picture-in-picture possibilities using OBS Studio, and Firefox has had picture-in-picture for a long time, an option under your control. But what they just introduced, people said, why can't we have more than one? And I'm going to submit that they did it in spades.
I'll tell you guys, picture in picture I find confusing enough without having multiple pictures in picture.
Here is multiple picture in picture. I consider this to be impressive. Won't take long. They have issued the challenge. You only have to go and look. It's in there now.
That
Somebody's
appears
going
to be a
complain that
solution.
mine isn't
Wait,
enough.
I'm hearing 2 and didn't hear either.
Looks like a solution in search of a problem.
That was Joe's take on it, I think. I can see where 2 might be quite valuable for something or other. For instance, if we're having this conversation, but you're waiting for something to show up to demonstrate it, you could run it on the side without having to take over the screen with it. I can see a few good purposes for it, but I think I haven't seen the perfect solution either, the perfect need yet either. Uh, Sometimes that's the way things happen and they turn out to be quite valuable. We'll find out later. Um, let's see. And total cookie, that's fighting words, isn't it? Total cookie protection.
It protects cookies.
And of course, this will be called TCP, you know, like the ETP. So from now on, I think if you just bring up ETP strict mode in Firefox, you will be enabling total cookie protection. But this is talking about all the extra things it knows how to do. And this is the quickie intro to what's important. Normally, wherever you're going, you're protecting against cookies, but you're not protecting against when you have more than one place open and the cookies are being shared between them. Now each connection is locked into its own cookie list, not the big group that you're running for everything else. Somehow I imagine this got even more important when they introduced all those multiple windows. So that's my hunch, but you can read what they're doing, how they're doing it, and why they're doing it. And I think this is going to become very common. It's new. In fact, I think this is new within the week, February 23rd, about a week. 2 weeks will do it anyway. So that was it on that. I need a couple of tabs for doing this with buttons. I'll set them up for next time. Hot hardware. I had only one today that I want to offer for hardware people might want to run and get. I think most of us have a good wireless router at this time. This is one that remains good. It was a few years ago that it came out, but it's still a very good one. And it wasn't available for $30. This one is available refurbished, and we just got one. It looks new, and it's well refurbished, checked out, maybe a repair if needed, but probably just checked out. But then what they did was they took off its software and put in an open source solution instead. The open source solution is interesting under hot software, but here it is down here. And I suppose it's hot internet too. DD-WRT is more powerful than almost any software you get proprietary built in when you buy the router. Those are generally simplified by not letting you do too much that's fancy. They don't have to have overly smart helpers online, and that's good enough for most use. And also, they might bundle in a few things you didn't really want, but they wanted, tracking you, for instance. So, DDWRT is the open source antidote for all of that. It's very complex when you want it to be, but if you set it up in default mode, it'll treat you easily and safely. And you've got that new and the latest, by the way, and this like new, and $30 delivered for the package. And it came quickly too. We were astonished with how quickly it arrived. So not the slowest shipping out there. So I'm recommending it. You can read about it and buy one if you like over here, but you can read about the DD-WRT here and find the website and a bunch of other comments and how-tos on DD-WRT over in the right margin when you go here. At least when I did it in Firefox, that's what I got with my settings. So I think this might be a win for some people, And we haven't set ours up yet. We'll report further on it maybe next month. But I think you may not get one by next month. They had a lot and they're selling them out fast. So take a look. Hot internet. Thunderbird doesn't give me grief. Yesterday it did, would you believe, right while we're getting ready for today's activity. And I had downloaded something or possibly pressed one of these buttons on the edge by accident. I don't think so. I think it was something that got downloaded and it changed one of my configuration settings. Not good. And what happens, our other computers were still running fine, but on my computer, if I downloaded this web screen, all the reds and the blues and the browns would be changed to default black text. That was a pain in the neck. But the real surprise came when I went to turn them back into their proper colors for this style that we use to make it a little more readable. And they were dead. My normal control for that is you go up here and
You're not
this
on,
is
not in Thunderbird.
uh, I did not do this in Thunderbird. Just a minute. I normally do it in Thunderbird, Joe.
Yeah,
But
you're not in Thunderbird now.
Right. I'm now browsing it. Hang on. I am in Thunderbird, darn it. I was.
No,
No.
you're in
Huh.
Firefox.
What I'm not is in edit mode in Thunderbird. That's the catch. Now I'm in edit mode in Thunderbird, and normally, and I'm seeing it right today because I fixed it, but normally I'd say format, text color, and last picked color was black, but after a while you get to learn how to do the things you do, and that's my green, and I could have outlined something and said, once it's clipboard, say make it green. Okay, and it would turn to green. It wasn't listening. I could do all the operations, but there was no change. That's weird. It wasn't complaining either. So that was my problem.
But what's more confusing, when he sent it to me, it had turned green, but it wasn't showing on his screen.
Yeah, my screen wasn't showing it. It had done all the work properly. What's going on? What's going on turns out, I have the clue here. I have the link here is what I have. Let's see. This is not the one that's live. Right mode. I'll get rid of the right mode one and go to the right mode one instead. That one, methinks. And something like that. Anyway, about there. And the clue eventually got found. Is that Firefox with a little look? Yes, it is. This fellow had almost the same problem. This was special on a Macintosh, I think, but no matter. We eventually came down reading it to where we got the one we wanted. Sure. I think that was not it, but I'm not sure. I guess that was it. So it said general language appearance. Yeah, this is the clue. And this is British style, but it works. And you uncheck system colors and also select never from the following drop-down options. Translating that back to where we were. I get edit preferences, I believe, to start. I may be wrong. And here we go. Language under general, fonts and colors, Deja Vu, Serif, and 20 are my choices. Advanced has my choices in it, but colors is the one that fouled us up because it said use system colors and it forced these colors. It was that simple. And this did not say never. Now they do, following those instructions. So it's that simple. If anyone runs into this problem, this is the solution. And very simply, it's an override. So whatever I was doing, it wasn't getting listened to. That's the answer. Now, back to that one. Good. This may yet shape up to where it's usable. That is it. And folks, except for one that I already mentioned, which is this one, that was in Thunderbird also? No. Firefox? It was in Firefox. Maybe. Yes. There's people who are trying to spy on you, but there's also people who are dealing in the various business levels of selling spyware. This is very interesting. So again, this article, which I mentioned very briefly on the way in, is an excerpt from this book. And they're saying this is really serious. We're back to where we started with this puzzle, this conundrum. Do we give up our freedom and our privacy and maybe our security 1 week later because we're putting in holes in the encryption to enable our favorite spy agency, which in turn are enabling all the other ones? Puzzle, puzzle, puzzle. It's before Congress, was being debated heavily yesterday, and you'll have links on all the above. And I hope we'll be discussing them soon. I guess back to Thunderbird. And that's the end of my entire collection for the day. Does anyone have questions on any of it? Does anyone have new issues to bring
Well,
up?
you were going to have Dennis do that play Windows game.
Oh, Dennis, you didn't. I'm so sorry. Dennis, are you ready to demo?
Yes.
Okay, I will stop sharing and I will let you do. I'm so sorry. I thought it was down in the part we had covered because it's not an active one on this particular window. It will be by tonight. So I will stop sharing and let you take over. Go.
Okay, so this is the article that Dick found talking about how to play Windows games under Linux. I haven't used everything in here, but I have used some of them. The first one they talk about is Steam Play. So Steam is a game store created by Valve. They created it because they were concerned that Microsoft was going to move in a direction where all Windows software had to be sold through Microsoft's Windows Store. And so they created Steam as a way to hedge their bets and be able to keep selling software outside of Microsoft's accepted method of doing that. They also have, because of this, they've promoted Linux as well. They've done a lot to support Linux under the using it as a tool to make sure that Microsoft doesn't close things up and prevent them from doing things. So they've been very supportive for Linux. So I do use Steam. This is the Steam client. So I'm not particularly fond of Steam. That's not because it isn't great. It is great. They have built-in voice chat that you can do. You can have a friends list. You can see what friends are playing. They easily set up joining games that your friends are playing and that sort of thing. You can even do some remote play options. So like this game here, I can go over and start playing it, and I can invite a friend of mine in who doesn't even have the game. They'll be able to play with me in the game. So it has a lot of nice features to it. The reason I dislike it is because everything is locked up, and so you have to be running Steam in order to run these games. It's always sending information to Valve as to what you're playing and that sort of thing. So I'm not a big fan of it, but it is very easy to use. They have most games that you'd want to play. These games that I have here are all Linux games, so I've installed them, so I have the option of just playing them. So this is another Linux game that I could install if I wanted. But one thing that Steam has is it has Steam, it has Proton, which is a custom version of Wine, the Windows emulator that they have set up. So, for example, this game here is only available for Windows. But what you can go over and do is you can go over and change the properties on it and say, I want to use Steam Play and use one of the versions of Proton. And now it runs. You can just click install. It'll install the game, and then you can start playing it. A lot of games work this way. Not all of them, and some of them, how well it works will depend on your graphics card. So, for example, I have tried this game with my laptop, and it doesn't run. They're all I get is a black screen. I have tried this game as well, and this game runs on my laptop. However, my graphics card is not that powerful, so it ends up running really slowly. So it's not playable, or at least I didn't find it playable. But there are lots of other games that actually do work, and they work well. I don't have any installed at the moment, so I can't demo any of them. The next tool that they recommended was Lutris. This recommendation here, I'm a bit confused by the discussion in this article. It says that you should use a VPN so that it doesn't know, it doesn't record what you're searching for or anything. And I really don't understand how how a VPN is helping you. They talk about using a VPN to prevent malware, and I just I VPNs generally don't do that. So I think the article there is kind of weird in what they're recommending there. I wouldn't recommend a VPN, frankly.
Dennis,
Yep.
my quick thought is they probably mean in 2 steps. The VPN gets your address to be shared to where it can make trouble for you. That's my guess what they're talking about there.
Yeah, but they mentioned that it's about going to dangerous websites containing malware. And I'm just I
No, it didn't say that. It will not only mask your IP address, but also warn you
will
about.
warn you about.
So my guess is the dangerous website might not be hitting at the very same minute at all. And I'm thinking in Firefox, when you're under that strict encryption now, they aren't seeing your website. They aren't seeing your address. So
Yeah.
that might be the equivalent and done with no effort whatsoever.
I personally wouldn't use it for I wouldn't go through the effort of doing that, but
Okay.
so Lutris is a game manager. So it can go over and it'll import your games from Steam. So it'll talk to the Steam client and find out what games you have. You can go over and configure it with Humble Bundle if you wanted. You can configure it with GOG, which I have, so that you can see the effect there. So it'll, yeah,
GOG we trust.
GOG used to stand for Great Old Games.
Ah,
So when the site originally went live, it was all about bringing back a whole bunch of old MS-DOS games. And so it was set up so that it would automatically have a DOS emulator, so that games that didn't run under Windows anymore, you could buy it from GOG and then you could immediately run it and play it. They've since gone over and added in new games, so they've now reduced themselves to just GOG as just the name and don't talk about what it used to stand for. But so you can go over and you enter in your credentials, and it will just go to the website and grab all the games that you have purchased there. And then you can easily just click on one and install it if you want. And I guess they have some support for using Wine automatically to run it. I haven't used it through here, but so like they have.
For others, Dennis, what is Wine?
Wine is a Windows emulator, effectively. It goes over and it's not technically an emulator, but it's often referred to as an emulator. What it does is it actually runs the program natively and just intercepts all the Windows calls and redirects them to where they should go to emulate that functionality.
And in fact, that's what its name is saying.
Yep.
Windows is not.
Wine is not.
Wine is not an emulator.
Yes.
So thanks. I thought somebody might want to know someday. Good. Sorry.
So yeah, that I haven't played games through it that much, so I've just never cared for Lutris that much. The game manager I use is Game Hub. It doesn't have any built-in support for Wine, so from the point of view of this article, it's not as useful as Lutris, because the Lutris users will go over and put up information on how to get games up and running, and they can put up scripts. And so you can go over and just use someone else's script to just install games and get all the correct settings automatically. But
Mhm.
I haven't used it myself. Play on Linux is another tool that does the same sort of thing. It's a game manager that allows you to run wine programs. And again, they keep a database with scripts on how to run things properly to get the best performance. That one I haven't used, so I don't know that much about that one.
I noticed there's an icon that says finite. Does that mean that you could run, come on, the tax program?
GNU tax? Oh, Microsoft
Yeah,
tax. Yeah.
What
come on, the common one that everybody has.
The very common Microsoft tax program, but we're not thinking of the name right now.
Right.
what icon are you talking about?
On the
Oh,
screen, it's
on this?
currently on screen.
Oh, this is just a web page. So
You're, you're, you're thinking of TurboTax.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
this is just the website with this article on how to play Windows games on Linux.
Ah,
We've been on GNU tax so long that we didn't remember the
not
name.
GNU tax, GNU cash.
GNU cash, there you go.
And it's not a tax program.
But it's helpful. Okay. Is that it, Dennis?
Yep.
Okay, thank you again very much. That's perhaps interesting to others. I'm trying to shake off some of the games I'm currently addicted to. Let's see. So here we come back into, we have covered everything, including the one under FOSS Fun. I want to mention that Dennis gave that talk by volunteering on a list that's now down at the end of our monthly agenda. And we're looking for a volunteer, maybe it's one of you for next month or for later. There's a request for antivirus programs. Which ones? Quick step through, show what they look like, where you get them, what's recommended. And um, we've got another one here. What's the best recipe for synchronizing between Linux and smartphones and iPhone and or Android phone? And Algot was not able to join us today, and he, I think, is going to address this one next month. So these are requests for volunteering or footprints in there that I will trip on and make sure they get included when I set up the next agenda. So take a look at those if you're apt to be interested in volunteering to give one of these demos.
Dick, question.
Yes.
When you say antivirus programs, does anyone here use any antivirus with Linux?
I occasionally use Clam when I'm suspicious of something.
Oh, I see, that kind of thing. Yeah, I
Yes.
also do Clam, just like
And I don't run it all the time, but if I have a computer coming in from a client and it's got problems,
Yeah.
that's a good start.
Yeah, true. I was just wondering, does anybody do anything else in Linux?
Well, I think everybody comes to Linux knowing about a vast antivirus, for instance.
Oh,
That-
yeah,
that's
for
my
Windows.
That's my take on it. So what would you do instead in Linux, I think would be the basis of that talk.
What would you do, or why do you feel you don't need to?
That's include what would you do or not do? Yes.
Okay. Thanks
so-
for the clarification.
You bet. Maybe I better put something in there to clarify. If you've got a good phrase that's better, send it along and I'll put it in. And so that's what that's about. I hope this is my fishing hook for future meetings. Um, and it's making it easier for me to find it at the other side of the same problem. So, are there any other discussion issues of any kind? Anybody?
Did you want to
Yeah.
show the spam that we got today?
I think not. It's exactly 5 p.m. and I think I'll take advantage of that. Oh, did you have one? What are you thinking of?
Oh,
Oh, the vacuum cleaner one?
the vacuum cleaner one.
I think let it wait.
Okay,
It's not that it's timely in terms of a problem or something.
right.
It's just cute. So I think we'll cut at 5 in that case. Thanks everyone for being here and hope to see you again next month. Be well.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you.
We have some fancy pantsy little thing of, oh, you're still on. You haven't hung up.
I did hang up.